Good evening. Tonight we're continuing the history that was started a while ago of Val-des-Monts. We started with Perkins and then Saint-Pierre-de-Wakefield. And tonight with Mrs. Frances McClellan, we're going to continue with the historical path of Poltimore. And Madame McClellan, if you could tell us how the McClellan store came to be in Poltimore.
Okay. Years ago, four Bonsall brothers came from England to settle in Poltimore. They were granted or bought about 500 acres or more of land. Two or three of them farmed, and one had the store, bought the store. And he was the storekeeper and the postmaster, and he sold it to Mr. Gagnon, Euseb Gagnon, and then the John Bonsall, the one that had the farm just behind the store, he sold his farm and bought the store from Mr. Gagnon. So it became J.H. Bonsall and Son. He was also, Mr. Bonsall was the postmaster also. They had the post office. And then when Mr. Bonsall became too old to keep it up, his son took over, J.W. Bonsall, and he and his wife had no children. So they always wanted my husband, Blythe McClelland, to come up and work with him, but to date, my husband didn't want to do that. So one day, Mr. Bonsall fell and hurt his back. He was bedridden, and he was in desperate need of help. So my husband and I talked it over. We had a small farm in Cantley, and we decided we'd try it out and see how we liked it. We just had one child then, Darrell. He was only 3. So we rented out our land, and we came up to Poltimore in the fall of 1944. And we worked with his uncle, Jack and Aunt Lily Bonsall, for 4 years. And then we sold our farm and bought the store from his uncle and aunt. And then we changed the name of the store to J.B. McClelland. Mm-hmm. And that, 1948, the fall of 1948 was the first time we got electricity. And my husband, right away, he had a big walk-in cooler built and a big locker plant. He was born and brought up on a farm in Cantley and was used to butchering and selling his meat on the Ottawa Byward Market, so he knew meat very well. So in those days, of course, people, when they first had electricity, didn't have their refrigerators or freezers, so they used to rent our lockers. And sometimes they'd buy meat from us, carcasses, and we'd cut it up and wrap it, or sometimes they'd do that themselves. The farmers would cut and wrap up their own meat. And then when they got their own refrigerators and freezers, they didn't need the lockers anymore, so we tore the lockers out and used the space for cold storage for our meat and for produce and beer. And we had built one small room for freezer to keep our extra frozen food in. And then as our family grew up, we had 3 sons and 1 daughter. As they grew older, we changed the name to J.B. McClelland and Sons. And And then, first of all, we lived in the store, right behind the store, and our bedrooms and that were just above the store. But we kept getting bigger and bigger, and then my oldest son got married, so was getting married. So we bought the house next door, and we made the rooms above the store into an apartment for Darryl and his wife. And then we became associated with Home Hardware. We became Home Hardware. And then later we went into building materials, and we were associated with Pilons in Hull. But we still had the grocery store, grocery and hardware and building material, a big lumber yard. And
did you still have the post office?
And we still have the post office. My husband's grandfather was postmaster first, and then his uncle, the Jack Monsell, and then my husband. And when he became 65, he had to retire. So our oldest son, Darryl, tried the competition, and he won, so he's postmaster now. But,
family tradition.
Yes. It's amazing. They stayed in the one place for 4 generations.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. So, is there anything else you want to know?
Well, the last time we met, you were telling me, or it was very evident that you were a working mom, even if
yes. Well, I worked with my husband, and we had Aunt Lily. She did most of the cooking, but I worked in the store and in the post office, and we had a housekeeper then after too. But
the children were with you often,
yes,
weren't they?
Yeah, they grew up with us in the store. When little Darryl was small, at that time we were open from when we got up in the morning till we went to bed at night, 7 days a week, even Christmas and New Year's, because there was mail on Christmas and New Year's then. Oh. And if I didn't get Darryl to bed at a certain time, well, I got busy and I couldn't get him to bed till later, and he used to fall asleep on the mail bags under the counter. One day he asked, he said, in the summertime, he said, "Mommy, does it ever get dark?" Because when he woke up in the morning, it was daylight, and when he went to put him to bed at night, it was still daylight. And the 3 boys were always interested in the store, but my daughter, Tish, she wasn't a bit interested in it. And little Harold, the youngest one, he liked to help in the store, and before he could even read and write, he used to make lists to fill the shelves, and of course he couldn't write, so he drew pictures. And then he'd go and fill the boxes and bring them into the store to fill the shelves.
So the store was very much a part of their lives,
too.
Oh,
yes, it was. Mm-hmm.
So it's understandable that they're there, again, still today.
Yes. When we bought it, it was just a small little country general store. There was harness and things hanging from the ceiling, and dry goods on a counter we sold by the yard, and benches along the side with spittoons under it, and a big box stove in the to keep the store warm. And at night, the old-timers used to come and sit on the benches and tell their fish stories and
all of their adventures. That must have been
oh, yes. And imagine being open like Christmas and New Year's, and we with 4 children. And Christmas Eve, of course, there's midnight mass, and our customers used to come in before midnight mass, and they'd buy their groceries, and they'd ask us if they could leave their groceries there till after midnight mass. So we had to stay open until they came to pick them up.
So you didn't get to go to midnight mass?
No. Anyway, and what a mess the store used to be Christmas morning. I used to, they'd go to confession first, and then they'd come back and have lunch. And we'd find banana skins and orange peels on the floor, and if it were snowing, the snow would track into the store. At that time, the door was right in the corner, and there was an old hardwood floor, and there was a hollow. It just had come in the store, I guess, from many feet, and that'd be just a puddle.
Oh, the water would all accumulate there, right at the door.
Yeah, and then, of course, I didn't tell you about the roads. When we came up here first, for the first few years, the snow plows didn't plow the roads from here to La Salette or from here to St. Pierre. And my husband had a fairly big truck, a 3-ton Ford truck. He was the only one of at that time there were 3 stores, our store and a store owned by Mr. Renault and Harvey Orange. And there was a daily taxi that Kenneth Pincus used to run. But my husband had the biggest truck, so they used to always go down on Tuesday to get their supplies, because nothing was delivered in those days. So on Monday, my husband Blythe would take his truck, and Harvey and Laurence Renault, Harvey Orange and Laurence Renault and Kenneth Pincus would pile on with shovels, and he'd drive the truck until it got stuck, and they'd all pile out and shovel until they got going again, until they got to St. Pierre. And they just prayed that it didn't storm that night so that they could get to town in the next morning.
So they would sleep in St. Pierre?
No, they come back.
Oh, in the St. Pierre?
Yeah. No, well, they'd after they shoveled their way out to St. Pierre, they stop at the hotel and have lunch and that, and then come back. And then go down the next morning. I remember one time, though, when my husband was coming back with a load, I don't know whether you know Chamberlain's Hill or not, that long, long hill before you come up to Poltimore, near Oranges Lake.
Right.
Well, it was a lot worse then than it is now. But it had snowed, and he was 4 days getting from the bottom of Chamberlain's Hill to Poltimore. He had to call somebody in Poltimore to come down with the horses and a sleigh to unload the truck to take home. It was hard in those
Still
days.
had to rely on the horses, eh?
Yeah. But anyway, it was really something, having to stay open 7 days a week. But my husband finally got closed. He wanted to close all day Sunday, but when he wrote to Quebec about it, they said we had to stay open till the last Mass. At that time there were 2 Masses Sunday morning, one at 8 o'clock and one at 10 o'clock. And so we got closed Sunday afternoon, but Sunday morning was something else because Blythe and I were alone, that the children were really small, and nobody wanted to work on Sunday morning, of course. So Blythe and I handled it, and people would bring in eggs for trade and want feed. We sold feed. And in the summertime, we sold ice cream, cones.
Oh,
The family would come in and want a lot of ice cream cones, and that took time. They pushing out ice cream cones and hamburgers. But anyway, we were glad when we got closed on Sunday at noon. We were tired out.
I guess, just from the morning.
Yeah. But anyway, then we got closed Wednesday afternoons. And 3 nights a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, I guess it was. But now we close at 6 o'clock from Monday to Thursday, and Friday we close at 8:30, and Saturday we close at 5, and close all day Sunday.
So it is closed on Sunday.
Oh,
now.
yes. Never go back to opening on Sunday again. Well, we couldn't possibly, it wouldn't be too bad if it's just a grocery store, but the home hardware and building material, no way, you know.
It's much more demanding.
Yes. And it's a family store after all.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we do have other employees, but it's hard enough to get them to work Friday nights and Saturdays without trying to get them to work on Sundays. So.
Sure. And Sundays are made to rest, aren't they? That's
That's really the only day they have.
Mm-hmm.
Harold and Cindy usually take Wednesday afternoons off. And Kent, well, he doesn't. He tries to leave a little earlier on Friday, but today he just left at 6 o'clock.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
that was right.
And Darryl and Frida, if they take time off, they just take Tuesday afternoons.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a grueling life. I tried to persuade Darryl when he said he wanted to work in the store. I said, well, there are a lot easier jobs to earn a living than working in the store, but that's what he wanted to do. He liked buying and selling, just like his dad. But anyway. So the three boys, Darryl he's in charge of the building material, and Kent is in charge of the home hardware, and Harold is in charge of the groceries and meats and produce and feed. And oh yes, we have dry goods like casual wear, work wear, and footwear, and Harold's in charge of that too.
So they all have their specialties.
Mm-hmm. Our store has been written up different times. Last year, somebody came in and told us that there was write-up in Loin about our store. We didn't know about it, but apparently the man who wrote about it has a cottage in St. Pierre. And then shortly after, there was another write-up in the Citizens by another writer that has a cottage somewhere up here. And then a girl used to work for us, Eileen Littleton. She's married and living in Montreal. We sell the Montreal Gazette only on the weekends, say, on Saturdays. But she said there's a write-up in the Montreal Gazette.
Wow. That's going further and further, isn't it?
So she cut out the clipping and sent it to me.
Yeah.
People find our store unique.
It is very interesting.
Yeah, like the man that wrote about our store in Loin, he said, I don't have to go to Hull or Ottawa anymore for my things when I'm at the cottage. I just come up to McClellan's store in Baltimore, you can get everything.
And you can get everything you want.
Mm-hmm.
And people, well, I know that. I'm in Perkins, and I deal a lot with McClellan's.
Do you?
Order the building material.
Mm-hmm.
Very handy.
Yes. It's amazing the number of houses we sell. Like we have two men that work on estimates all year round. And like people bring their blueprints in and hand it to them, and they make up estimates for them. And well, I guess maybe the building material, Kent says it's about 70 or 75% of our business now, the building material.
There's a lot of houses going up.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
Yes. Yeah.
That's interesting. Very nice.
And one of our biggest customers was the prefab. In Ottawa, they sell log homes, and they're one of our biggest customers. And they, well, through them, we ship material all over, down to the States and Colorado and Michigan and different states. It's amazing.
So they're building everywhere then,
Yeah.
eh? They're not just in Canada.
No.
Isn't
But
it
through
interesting?
this prefab company in Ottawa, yeah.
Interesting. Well, thank you very much.